Hey folks, it's Matt Mavigliano from 3 Pound Fishing. Welcome to my home water, Lake of Egypt. Today we're going to be doing a tips and tricks episode for crappie masters. We're going to be single poling, we're going to be casting. A lot of tricks that we do to put a lot of fish in the boat. Let's just get on the water. Come on, let's go. Welcome to Lake of Egypt, located roughly around Marion, Illinois. It is a 2,300 acre lake that was dammed up in 1962. It is a coal-burning electrical plant cooling system for them, and it's privately owned. So, Lake of Egypt, it is a fantastic lake, good fishery, good average sized fish here, and we have a very active winter bite. So, let's get to it. Now, I'm showing a ton of fish around these two stumps, and so really just casting out there 30 feet, letting it fall down to about 12 foot. And then a slow retrieval is key. And I do a very, constant, consistent retrieval. I even will try to, speed it up just to maybe get an aggressive fish that doesn't like the idea that it's running from them. Ooh, baby, we got a ton here. I'm moving back. The gear that I love using, without a doubt, my favorite length rod is a 10-footer. Ozark Rod has an incredible selection of rods. They actually have a 3 Pound Fishing Elite Series. And so I choose to use it because I can do just a little bit of everything. I can drop on them vertically, I can cast to them. And that really does make the fishing a little bit easier. It gives me a variety of options when I'm out there on the water. And then because the Lake of Egypt really does have what we call a tick, it does not have a thump. I utilize braid, and right now sniping braid is absolutely just a great product because it is super sensitive. So being able to set that hook on a light bite, a tick like we have on Egypt, is very important. What I typically use is a 32-ounce jig, but I then usually marry it up with something a natural color, something small as well. I just think they really like the smaller bait sizes, and you get used to a fall rate. So something bigger here is going to throw me off maybe a little bit on the fall rate, knowing what it takes to get it down to the 12 feet. But these fish are starting to separate from the piles, and they are all over this pile right now. And there's one of our first fish right there. And that's a good size, that's a good little eater. Something everybody would love to take home and put in a pan right there. That's a good Egypt eater right there. Again, we're kind of known for a really good average size fish. At the end of the day, you'll look back at your live well, you'll have a full live well, but you also have a lot of solid fish. Now the fish, the bite, like I said earlier, is definitely a little bit different. It's a tick, so having braid, sniping braid would be a great example of that, is really going to help you set the hook, because the fish is not committed at Egypt. It is. Most people would like to compare it to almost a bluegill bite sometimes. We've got 56-degree water temperature, and these fish are all the way down there at 12 foot right now, and they are definitely moving around and they're feeding, and they'll stick really close to this power plant during the winter time, just because that's where the warm water is, and that's where the shad goes. They're seeking out that warm water too, and 56, that's pretty warm water for this time of the year, and it really starts to build up over here near the power plant. So we're going to kind of focus around the power plant today. That's where the fish are. When I was starting to crappie fish, I did nothing but minnows, and now it's definitely evolved to nothing but jigs. I think good placement of a jig, accuracy of a throw can even overcome a minnow. Not to say that minnow fishing isn't fun, because I think it is, but there's one. The evolution has changed it, man. A live scope has just made difference in what you have to do to catch these great fish. That's a great fish right there. That's a good eater. All right, we're gonna make a run, check the other parts of the lake out here. Gonna go what we call Elks Cove.
Your national champions, TJ and Alex Palmer.
Crappie Masters All-American Tournament Trail is brought to you by American Ethanol, Humminbird, HH Rods and Reels, Genco Fishing, The Bass Tank, and these other fine sponsors.
Some of the best crappie fishing is during the fall and winter time. What makes Lake of Egypt a little different is that we have a lot of schooling fish. So what happens is the fish tend to start walking or swimming away from these piles, and you can actually catch them schooling, or you can catch them on the piles. Now, as the water gets colder, they'll be purely schooling, and you always know when that period hits because they simply won't be on the structure anymore. Fish are feeding up for the wintertime on all these lakes, and but definitely what makes it unique around here at Lake of Egypt is that you're going to find huge schools of fish, and right now we're kind of in that transition period where we're getting a little bit of both. We've got them still on the piles, but if you just go a little bit off those piles, you'll start seeing them schooled up. These fish, instead of being tucked away in the structure, they'll be right on top of it. Right now they are just flat right on top of this structure. Still, which is the way I love them. It's great because, I mean, when you have schooling fish and you have fish that are active above and top of these piles, it makes it a lot easier for people to kind of get the idea about the casting, and you have a much bigger target to hit. Oh, baby. That's what happens when you catch a fish 2 feet below the water. And it's such a quick bite here at Egypt. I mean, it is a tick. It is not a thump. You know, in my opinion, it's without doubt the hardest bite in Southern Illinois because it is a tick. You don't have a fish that's completely committed to it. So they'll follow it all the way up here, and boy, you have to be quick to set the hook. Yeah, winter and fall time is an incredible time to fish because you can literally do it all. You can vertical fish straight up and down. We use a mixture of hair jigs and plastics here, and it's always interesting how it can go back and forth between the two. Right now it's a plastic bite. They really do like the plastic. Good eaters here right now, really good eaters. But there are days that they won't touch a plastic. I mean, they won't touch a plastic at all. It has to be a hair jig. So I just use these little small swim baits a buddy of mine makes for me, and I put them right on top of a 3-pound fishing tackle jig head. This is a 32-ounce jig head, using the color orange today, although again, I don't know if color matters as much as, in my opinion, as profile does. Profile and vibration, I think those are two of the big things for me anyway. That's what I believe in. Never been much of a scent guy, but I think there's a place for that. But I'm more of a profile and vibration, what that bait is giving off. I don't want the bait falling. That's one of the big tips I hit on my guide trips, is as soon as that bait starts to fall, unless you have an extremely aggressive fish, they'll lose interest, they'll go away. So I'll play the fish when I see it on live scope, use the newest technology to find out what these fish are thinking and doing, and as soon as they start following it, I'll either speed it up or always stay at least on that same plane. As soon as I drop, at least the fish that's maybe not completely committed, they'll lose interest. So you don't want to be dropping if you don't have to. Little guy. I do guide on this lake. I guide about 3 or 4 times a week. This is my home lake. I do guide on other local lakes, Wren Lake, Kincaid, but I definitely fish the Lake of Egypt more than I fish any other lake. And it's just, you know, the action is just great. This is a small little guy. Action's great in the fall and winter time, just great fishing. A little bit of everything. Right now just casting. I'd like to get some of these guys that are on top of the pile. They look a little bit better. Right there. Oh, just a little bitty, that fish is following me and I just jerked it really quick, making it act like it was really taking a run, and he just bolted at it. Live scope will let you just like play with them. Based on what they're doing, you can react to it.
Crappie Masters All-American Tournament Trail is brought to you by the National Corn Growers Association, Minn Kota, Power Pole, Millennium Marine, Ozark Rods, and these other fine sponsors.
These fish have no idea that I'm here about 30 feet away from them right now, and I'm just casting to them, following my jig on a live scope, and it doesn't get any better, folks, I'm telling you. One of the most important things about live scope is boat control. Without a doubt, anybody that's out there on the trails or guides know that boat control is critical. Ultrax is my go-to. This is my second Ultrax, and I didn't get rid of the first one because anything was wrong. I got a new one, even though the other one was working perfect, because I wanted more power. So this is a 36-volt Ultrax, and the value that Ultrax brings is it's a quick left and right movement. It allows me to pulse the thrust one direction or another, keeping that boat into the wind so that I can have control over these casts. These casts aren't easy, and having the right equipment to do it is critical, and Ultrax is without a doubt my favorite trolling motor to make that happen. And again, it's the left and right, the quick movement, to be able to adjust going back, and it's just a great trolling motor. So, you know, live scope being the new technology, you're focused in on every cast and every drop, and marrying those two together, what you're feeling with the pole, what you're feeling with the braid is it's interesting. It's time on the water, but marrying them together becomes a real powerful thing. Oh, baby. So what I do on a really tough bite, sometimes I will play the screen. So even though I might not necessarily feel it because it is such a light bite, I'll actually play the screen. And when I see that fish actually close the gap on the bait on a really tough bite day, I'll go ahead and I'll try to set the hook. So I didn't feel anything. All I was doing was 100% just playing the screen. So, and actually, you know, in reality is most times you'll feel something, whether it's on the braid or the rod, and the combination of that, seeing it on the screen, that's what I'm gonna use most of the time. But on a really tough bite, playing the screen, kind of like video games, that's what they talk about, right? You're playing the screen and deciding whether or not you wanna set the hook. Oh, don't do it. Don't do it. Did you do it? He did do it. Another Egypt eater. So what's great about Ozark rods is they have a variety of different types of rods. Of course, you got your 3-pound Fishing Elite series that will come from anywhere from a 10-footer all the way up to a 14-footer, but they also have other special rods like the Scope Special rod, which is a 13-footer. It's silver, it's beautiful, it's got a lot of backbone, so you might want to check that out. They also have what's called the Mini. It's a 5.6, so if you're into those smaller rods, the Mini is brand new. Check it out as well. They have some dock shooters, which are a 6-foot and a 7-foot. Those are definitely a highlight. and a whole jigging rod series. Again, maybe a faster tip option versus maybe the 3-pound Fishing Elite series. But again, just the great thing about Ozark rods is they really do have a rod for everybody. So check them out, try them out, and pick out the one that fits you best. All right, so another thing about fall and winter fishing is you got to move when the fish aren't active. So it's a move, move, move game now in the crappie world, and this tells you whether it's time to move. So we have a ton of fish here, which is interesting, but we're moving anyway because we can spend time here with inactive fish, or we can go find some active fish. So that's what we're going to do. All right, so here's my setup, folks. I use, of course, the 10-footer from Ozark Rod. That's the 3-pound Fishing Elite series. Good backbone, super sensitive, and light. The first thing people pick up on this is how light it is. The next thing we're going to go to is I use a small fluger reel. Haven't had a problem with those. I had them for a while, and boy, they've tested the time. I don't think I've had one problem with a fluger reel, so I've got those guys on there. Then we go right to the braid. The braid is a sniping braid. It's a really sensitive, strong, optimal for live sonar, high color viz, green. So you'll feel this fish literally just swim by this. You'll be able to set the hook. I then use a split shot for weight. I use this for two reasons. One is I can visually see it on live scope a lot better. When it's moving horizontal, I can actually pick it up a lot quicker when I have two marks going across. Now, it's not completely necessary, but it really makes me feel comfortable when I see that. So then we go to the 3-pound fishing tackle, which is right here. This is a 32-ounce jig head. It's also offered in a 16. You can check those out as well. So it comes in a variety of different colors. Perfect jig head. This is a medium style hook with a bait keeper on the back side. So that's my setup. That's what I use. And then sometimes, like I said earlier, I have to use hair jigs, and I love hair jigs. So when I do fish with a hair jig, I typically will use my 13-footer from Ozark Rods. Again, light. It's a 2-piece. It's my go-to tournament rod, and I'll use a variety of different colors. This particular one is called the Darbone. You can get those at 3-pound fishing tackle as well. But I usually make all those hair jigs in a 16th ounce. And again, you have your split shot tied right to the sniping braid. And again, I just use a 13-footer. Anytime I'm fishing with a hair jig, more times than not, I've got the 13-footer out. And that has been the go-to on the tournament trails for the crappie masters. So on a tough bite, like today is not the easiest bite, right? You want to be able to set the hook. So I've got two things that make that happen. The braid allows the hook set immediately, a nice sensitive but good backbone rod. And I think because of how light a 10-footer is, it makes it just that much easier. Now, if I had a 13-footer or something like that, I mean, some guys are great at that, but it's a lot harder for me to lift up a 12-footer, a 13-footer to set the hook if I need to make it happen that quick. A 10-footer is light. It's my perfect, it's my go-to, it's what I put in my boat. During a guide trip, we'll have 4 or 5 of these in the boat. And I make most people believers once they leave the boat, so it's great for me anyway. It's what I believe in. Combination of a light jig head, being able to set that hook really quick. Gonna put fish on the boat right there. So one of the keys to, fishing, in my opinion, shallow. Anytime you can use these power poles, you want to use them. They allow you to not have to worry about your trolling motor, yet get full utilization of your live scope, and which of course makes you just that much more stealthy. And so I'll put my power poles down. And we're only about 5 foot of water. And then I'll turn my trolling motor off 100% so that I don't have to worry about accidentally hitting the button because we're so used to it. All right, so these fish are just a little bit further than I'd like, but we're gonna give it a rip. Potato chip right here. So the clarity of the water here on Egypt is, I would say that it's clear. It's a little blackish, but it's a clear lake. I mean, certainly in the summer we have 4 or 5 foot of visibility on this lake. So when the sun's high, there's no cloud coverage, that type of thing, it makes the bite really difficult. So casting from 30 feet is definitely a thing to do at that point. But it's considered a clear water lake, and it even gets clear during the summer when everything settles. So different tactics for different situations. A clear body of water with a bluebird day, it makes it really difficult for crappie fishing. So staying away, the farthest you can stay away, the better, personally. Another thing that's great about Lake of Egypt is that you can hide from the winds. So, even though we might have a high wind, there's so many coves with high ridges, you get the protection that you need from it. Now, we do have about 3 main marinas on the lake. We have Pyramid, Max, and Egyptian Hills. A lot of people go to Pyramid. I think Pyramid Acres is a fantastic marina. It's inexpensive to park there. It's $5 before you put your boat in. New owners, exciting things happening there, food trucks, bands, that type of thing. We've got Max Marina right down the road. I believe parking there is $10. And then you have Egyptian Hills on the other side of the lake, which I believe is pretty expensive to park. But so the accommodations are there. If you do decide to make a trip to Lake of Egypt, again, it's 2,300 acres, so it's a fairly large lake. Now, it's a rec lake. It's a recreational lake, so it is, there are going to be a lot of people here during the summertime.